It's a cold morning. A view you haven't seen before. A view from upstairs through the dirty windows. I'll have to get them sorted out. Mojo likes the view up here as well. You just like sitting looking out the window. You see white roofs, white frosts and everything. And look at that. V formation. Right, as far as the birds are concerned, I've started a spreadsheet with a list of birds, which I'll show you in a minute. But I've got two columns, and one column is a list of birds that I've seen in the garden. So that's within those boundaries, along that fence, the bushes, the trees, the hedge, and inside the garden boundary. But then I've got another column which is birds that I've seen from the windows, and that would include, like, you know, what we're looking at now. So that bird in the top of that tree would count as seen from the window. So and in that list I've got a list of what is highly likely to be all the birds I will ever see from here. Now, I could get surprises. So I'm just looking at the very top of that tree. There's a little tiny bird just appeared up there, which hasn't got colour. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on it. I'm not very good at zooming in. No, too late. It's flown off now anyway. But yeah, now if that bird had been on my not on my list, I'd have put that on the list of in the garden, because that tree is in the garden. So anything that appears in that tree counts as in the garden, as I say, along with the hedges. So it's just to keep track of what's going on. I could probably do it in my mind, but I thought it might be nice to, you know, have the list. And then if anything unusual or rare occurs, I'll add one to the list. But I've probably got it covered. Anyway, let's as I say, cold morning today. I put a little container out with some water for the birds by the feeder, and that's frozen. So we'll have to go and break the ice in that in a minute. Anyway, a new day. Looks like it's going to be a bright sunny day. I'm not sure whether that's going to last all day, but we shall see. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you the view from an upstairs bedroom window. It's a view that we haven't looked at before. It's a bit of perspective on the garden, basically. The washing line thing I'm going to remove and put in the shed, because I doubt if I'll use it very often, and if I want to use it, I'll get it out and use it and put it away again, because it's not exactly attractive. So I think we'll get rid of that. Just to say, it just doesn't look right. And I'm looking at getting a okay, it's only plastic, but it looks it doesn't look plastic, an actual bird bath on a stand. So we'll actually have a place for the birds to have a splash around in. Needs to be plastic really, because you can have problems in this country with freezing water, and if you've got like a concrete container or something like that, it can crack, you know, because frozen water expands, so it takes up more space than the water did, and you can get cracks and things. It's just where the water always freezes from the top, you know, so you get a crust of water which then becomes fixed, and the water underneath starts to freeze and expands, and it can cause cracks in stonework and things like that. So anyway, so as I said, I will count birds in that tree line over there. I will count birds that I see flying over, and obviously we'll have the ones that are actually in the garden. Now, those trees are a long way away, but I'm pretty good at identifying birds from a silhouette a very long way away. And don't forget, I have got a very good pair of binoculars. But I think we'll get the windows cleaned at some point, and we'll see what happens. Right, so that's that. Let's go and have a look at this bird list. Okay, this is the list then. I've got the ones that have actually physically been in the garden, and then ones that I've only seen from the house or the garden, so they haven't actually come in yet. So this includes birds just flying over, but it'll give me a complete list. Now we've already mentioned the types of tits I'm liable to get, and we've already got 3 of the 4. Blue tit, great tit, long-tailed tit have all been in the garden, and many of them. And then we've got cold tit is highly likely to be in amongst those on occasions, but I'm pretty sure I saw 1 or 2 in the tree, that big conifer tree, but I can't positively identify them as yet. Blackbird, there's a male and a female in the garden, and then we're likely to get song thrush or missel thrush. The missel thrush is not likely to come into the garden. They don't tend to come on feeders, but they are likely to be in that big row of trees behind the houses. That's where I'm most likely to see them. Starlings we've had in the garden. Wood pigeon, I've only had 1 in the garden, I could do without them. But as far as flying over or in those trees, there's many around. Collared dove is liable to be around as well. I've heard them, but I haven't seen where they are yet. And then the black stuff, or the stuff that I could do without, you've got jackdaws. I'm not sure I've seen any yet, but I haven't really been looking. That big line of trees again behind the houses, there's crows in there. It's possible there could be rooks in amongst them, but again, at that distance, I'd have to get the binoculars out. Magpies, they're around. I've seen 3 at once out of the window, and we had a jay in the garden. That's the only one I've seen. The nuthatch, there's only 1, and it's been in the garden. Goldfinches, there was a good flock of those in the conifer tree. Greenfinches I've heard. Chaffinches no. Bullfinches no. Siskin and brambling. Those are the others that are possibles that may turn up. And then we've got this little set. We've got robin. There's 2 in the garden. I've seen both on the feeder at the same time. It's possible there's wrens around. They're quite common but secretive and very small, obviously. Dunnock, or hedge sparrow as I call it, they're liable to be creeping around in the undergrowth. House sparrows, many, they've been in the garden, in the hedges and in the tree. Goldcrests, unusual for a garden, but I've had those in the tree. Birds of prey liable to be seen. The other house had a sparrowhawk actually in the garden, so that's a possible. And looking out of the window into the skies, I am liable to see common buzzards and kestrels. So a list of 3 birds of prey possibles. As far as the gulls are concerned, black-headed gulls, herring gulls and black-backed gulls. 2 already seen many of. Black-backed gull is huge, that is our largest gull. You get one of them land next to you when you're sat on the harbour eating your chips, you really know about it. They are big. And then flying over, I've heard ducks flying over late evening just as it's getting dark, but I don't know what they are. I'm assuming mallard, and I've already seen a flock of Canada geese fly over. So that's the list so far. So in the garden we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've got a dozen species in the garden, actually physically in the garden already, so not doing bad. And there's going to be times where I've missed things, where things have been in the garden and I haven't seen them. Well, I can't count them, can I? Anyway, I thought it might be nice to keep a list going and update it every now and again. As an item on the list gets the first viewing, I can come and update it. Or if a species turns up that's not on my list, unlikely but possible. I think I've covered most things there. We'll see how it goes. I suppose I ought to have another column for on the feeders. Actually coming down to feed on the feeders. I think I'll add that. Yeah, I think that might be nice. Anyway, that's that. Just a quick early morning view out of a window you haven't seen out of before. I have a stand in that window drinking a coffee quite often because it does give me a much bigger view of the area rather than from the downstairs windows. It's very confined because of the high hedges and trees. I can only see the garden really. Anyway, that's that. Not everybody's interested in all this sort of stuff, but it's another part of living here that wasn't part of living in the old place. The old place, really, it was just about the orchids, whereas here I've got other interests now, and I think the variety in the channel could be useful. I'll try and make sure that titles give a clue as to content. Would be good, wouldn't it? You think, I can hear everybody going, well, yes. But I don't always do that. Sometimes there's something hidden in the video that's a surprise, and that's deliberate, you know. But anyway, you know, we've got the bonsai, we've got the trips out to see the native orchids and other, you know, other things, the field trips, that sort of stuff. We've got the birds on the feeder, yeah, and obviously the orchids. So this is, my new life is changed. I've got more interests now I'm here, and I'm including them up to the point that people don't want to see them anymore, if you see what I mean. And I find those things out in the comments, you know. Ooh, not really interested in that. Well, if you're one of 50 that's not interested, then I'm sorry, you're on your own. But if there's a general consensus that people are not interested in something, I'll get a feeling for it, so don't worry. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.